Nobody tells you the price of playing it safe because it doesn't show up immediately. It doesn't arrive as failure or loss. It arrives as comfort, as routine, as a life that looks fine from the outside but slowly feels empty on the inside. Playing it safe doesn't break you overnight. It slowly erodes you, one quiet compromise at a time. From a young age, we're taught that safety is success, stable income, predictable paths, clear rules, minimal risk. And at first, this advice makes sense. Safety feels responsible, it feels mature, it feels like you're doing the right thing. But nobody tells you that safety has a cost, and that cost is paid over time, not up front. The first thing playing it safe takes from you is optionality. When you choose the predictable path, you trade flexibility for certainty. Your life becomes efficient but fragile. One income stream, one identity, one version of yourself that depends on everything going according to plan. And when the plan changes, you realize how narrow your choices have become. Then it takes your tolerance for uncertainty. The longer you stay comfortable, the harder it becomes to step into the unknown. Risk starts to feel irresponsible instead of necessary. You stop asking, "What could I become?" and start asking, "What could I lose?" That shift changes every decision you make. Playing it safe also trains you to delay life. You tell yourself you'll take risks later, when you're more prepared, when you have more money, when things are more stable. But later rarely comes. Responsibilities grow, comfort deepens, and the cost of change keeps increasing until staying becomes easier than leaving. Nobody tells you that safety compounds just like risk does. Each safe choice makes the next one more likely. You build a life optimized for not failing, not for winning. And slowly, ambition gets replaced by maintenance. Growth gets replaced by protection. You stop chasing meaningful progress and start protecting what you already have. There's also a psychological cost. When you consistently avoid risk, you begin to doubt your own ability to handle difficulty. Confidence doesn't come from avoiding challenges, it comes from surviving them. Without that experience, even small uncertainties feel overwhelming. You start underestimating yourself without realizing it. Socially, playing it safe can isolate you, not because you're alone, but because you're surrounded by people who reinforce comfort. Conversations stay shallow, dreams stay theoretical. Nobody pushes too far because everyone is protecting the same fragile sense of security. You're safe, but you're not growing. Financially, safety is expensive. Stable paths often cap upside while leaving downside untouched. Inflation keeps moving, costs keep rising, but safe income rarely accelerates. Over time, you realize that what once felt secure is now barely enough, and taking risks later feels harder than it ever would have been earlier. The most dangerous part is that playing it safe feels like progress. You're busy, you're productive, you're responsible, but motion is not direction, activity is not growth, and effort without intention can quietly lead you somewhere you never meant to go. Nobody tells you that regret doesn't come from failing. It comes from knowing you never tried, from realizing you had time, energy, and potential, but spent it protecting a version of life that never fully satisfied you. Regret comes from the gap between who you were and who you could have been. Playing it safe is not wrong, it's just not free, and the price is rarely paid in money. It's paid in curiosity, confidence, and possibility. It's paid in the quiet moments when you wonder how life might have looked if you had taken one more risk, one more step, one honest leap into the unknown. And the hardest truth is this: the longer you play it safe, the more expensive change becomes. Not because the world gets riskier, but because you get more attached to what you already have. Safety doesn't protect you from loss, it just delays it, and sometimes it makes it bigger. And nobody tells you that the biggest risk is not failing, but becoming numb. When life is too safe for too long, you stop feeling urgency. Days blur together, weeks pass unnoticed. You're not in pain, but you're not fully alive either. And that quiet numbness is more dangerous than any bold mistake, because it keeps you stuck without resistance. Playing it safe slowly disconnects you from your instincts. You stop trusting your inner signals and start outsourcing decisions to rules, norms, and expectations. You wait for permission, for validation, for the right moment. But that moment is rarely clear. Life doesn't send invitations. It responds to movement. Nobody tells you that safe choices train you to avoid responsibility for your own life. When outcomes are predictable, you can blame the system, the economy, the timing. Risk forces ownership, and ownership is uncomfortable. It means your future is shaped by your actions, not your circumstances. Many people prefer safety because it gives them someone else to blame. There's also a hidden opportunity cost. Every safe decision closes a door you'll never see again. Not because it was dramatic, but because you didn't step through when it was open. Opportunities don't wait for certainty. They reward momentum. By the time something feels safe, the upside is usually gone. Nobody tells you that courage feels irresponsible before it feels right. Every meaningful leap looks reckless from the outside. The difference between foolish risk and necessary risk is not clarity, it's intention. But intention is invisible to people who only value security, so you learn to silence it. Playing it safe changes how you measure success. Instead of asking, "Am I growing?" you ask, "Am I stable?" Instead of, "Is this meaningful?" you ask, "Is this acceptable?" And over time, your standards shrink. You don't lower them consciously, you adapt them to match your comfort zone. Even your future self pays the price. The older you get, the more energy it takes to reinvent yourself. Not because you're weaker, but because your life has more weight, more obligations, more identities to protect. The risks you avoided earlier don't disappear, they accumulate interest. Nobody tells you that most people don't regret the risks they took. They regret the risks they avoided, the conversations they never started, the paths they never explored, the version of themselves they never gave a chance to exist. Regret heals faster than wondering. This doesn't mean you should act recklessly, it means you should be honest. Ask yourself which parts of your life are built on fear disguised as responsibility, which decisions are about protection, not purpose, which version of safety is quietly costing you your future. Because safety is not the opposite of danger, stagnation is, and a life without growth will eventually demand change, whether you're ready or not. The difference is whether you choose that change or it's forced upon you. Nobody tells you the price of playing it safe because it can't be measured immediately. It doesn't show up on a balance sheet. It shows up years later in reflection, in the quiet realization that you did everything right but still feel something is missing. And by then, the cost is already paid.